Arch Manning and the #1 ranked Texas Longhorns against the #3 ranked Ohio State Buckeyes. This is a monumental clash to start off the college football season. Of course, it's a big noon kickoff. Who needs a primetime game to get a big matchup to start the college football season? Big noon kickoff. Joel Klatt, Gus Johnson on the call for this one. I think that Texas wins this game. Look, I'm an Ohio State fan, so I can speak unbiased here. We can talk through all the Ohio State players and their talents. We're going to do that, but Texas has the advantage on defense. Let's start off with the pass rush. Whenever we start talking about a defense, the first thing that we have to do, because football is a modern era now, we're living in the modern era of college football. The passing attack comes first, unless you're the Michigan Wolverines. So the passing attack led by of course, Colin Simmons. We're going to highlight that with a red Sharpie right now because Colin Simmons could be the best defensive player in the Southeast Conference this year. And behind that, you have a guy that could also be the best player in the Southeast Conference, maybe the best defensive player in college football, and Anthony Hill Jr. Anthony Hill Jr. reminds me of Brian Urlacher. I know that's a little bit of an interesting comparison because they're different body types, but Anthony Hill Jr., 6'3", 235 pounds, runs a 40 under 4.5. You can imagine that that's going to be a bit of a tough task for Ohio State to be able to defend. I believe it's going to be tough for them without Josh Simmons, without Donovan Jackson, without Josh Farr in that offensive line, returning those players. Of course, there's Ethan Onyanwa now, the left tackle there. Carson Hinsman has had experience when Seth McLaughlin went down at center for the Buckeyes, but very concerned about the offensive line in stopping Texas. Not to mention the back end for Texas defensively. Michael Taft, Malik Muhammad. There are 5 legitimate players that could be All-Americans on Texas's defensive side of the football. Now, when we're matching that up against what Ohio State has offensively, it all starts with who? #4. Yes, Jeremiah Smith is the best player in college football this year. He could be a starting #1 wide receiver for probably 23 NFL teams as of right now. Well, what did Texas do when they played against Jeremiah Smith last year in the college football playoff semifinal? We all know, 1 catch for 3 yards. They completely limited him. Steve Sarkisian has a game plan, and will it be effective? Probably not to the tone of 1 catch for 3 yards, probably something more like 80 yards, maybe even has a touchdown in this game. But the inexperience of Julian Sayin in having this be his first start, just because this game is at the shoe, one of the best environments for college football, doesn't mean that you can't be nervous and that you have home field completely rocking. We understand against Michigan how eerie it felt, how nervous that the crowd was. Arch Manning, not a lot of experience, but still, he played in that semifinal game, had a very big 4th down rushing conversion. He played in the SEC championship game. He played in that game. He had a rushing touchdown against Texas A&M. He's already had big plays in his college football career already. Now, let's talk about that offense. Ryan Wingo, they have a very good passing attack. They lose Gunnar Helm. Of course, we know of them losing Isaiah Bond, Matthew Golden, and that offense will be a little bit different passing the ball. But where I'm worried as a Buckeye fan is going to be that run game. CJ Baxter, Quintavion Wisner, them running the football. Ohio State has to replace those 4 defensive linemen, all draft picks. Tyleik Williams, Ty Hamilton there in the middle, and Jack Sawyer and JT Tuimoloau out on the edges. Fantastic. The best defense in football last year. There's Kenyatta Jackson, Edric Houston, Caden Curry. These guys filling in now on the Buckeye side of things. They're able to come in and bring in a couple of transfers and Bo Atkinson in the secondary. Of course, there's who we talked about, some of the best defensive players in college football. Caleb Downs, in my opinion, is the best defensive player in college football as of right now. Concern is at cornerback. Davison Igbinosun was the most penalized player in college football a year ago. Texas was starting to go at him. Notre Dame was going at him. Teams were taking advantage of Davison Igbinosun and the Ohio State secondary when they had success moving the football during that season, and of course when they were able to limit that pass rush. So they're going to find ways to get the ball out of Arch's hands quickly, to use his legs. Obviously, that helps the quarterback not having to sit there in the pocket and wait for that pass rush to come to him. But attack by running the football. Arch Manning is one of the most athletic quarterbacks that we have seen that is a very good thrower of the football to match with that. Now, where does Ohio State not have an advantage this year? It's also like the run game. Like those two backs for Texas now, with Baxter coming back. He wasn't on the field last year because of the injury in the offseason. James Peoples, Bo Jackson. Ohio State brought in the transfer C.J. Donaldson, who was very good at West Virginia, 11 touchdowns each of the last 2 seasons. But there is definitely an advantage on that Texas side of the ball running it. Believe that they are going to have a lot of success on the early downs. Think about the Nebraska game. Think about that Michigan game. Even the Texas game saved a couple of big plays, like the Travion Henderson screenplay that goes for a long touchdown. You throw that out the window, throw out the first drive. Ohio State was getting dominated in the trenches defensively all night in that semifinal against Texas, where it has someone like me, as a big Buckeye fan, quite concerned. Carnell Tate, let's talk about him, because if you take away the best player for Ohio State, you're going to have to go somewhere else. There's Carnell Tate, who is going to wind up being either a first round or a second round pick in the 2026 NFL draft. He's dynamic, he's 6'3", long, great route runner, going to be a top 10 wide receiver, most likely in college football. But Max Clare might be one of the most underrated players in college football this year. He could be the Mackey Award winner, best tight end in America, because you take away JJ, you take away Carnell Tate, who's open in the middle of the field, who do you target in the red zone as another threat to go to? But again, talking about the inexperience of Julian Sain, it's not like I think this game is going to be a blowout. Don't get me wrong. Believe this thing is going to be very close. I have Texas winning 24-20, it being a tight one-score game all the way through, and in the fourth quarter, with Ohio State maybe having a chance to take the lead at the end of the game and not being able to do it. When they had the opportunity to pick up a big third down against Notre Dame at the end of the year, we know who they went to on that play. Will that opportunity be presented to them? We all remember that on that route, he was single covered. They just said, go ball. Jeremiah ran a go ball, and they completed a 56-yard completion and sealed the deal to win the national championship. Opportunities like that most likely will not be presented to them against Texas. Ohio State doesn't have an Anthony Hill Jr. roaming the middle of the field. Frankly, only one team does in Texas. He's probably, if we're all being honest about it, going to be somewhere selected between picks 6 through 8. Seems like there's just about any team in the NFL that could use a player like that, dynamic, coming up right to the line of scrimmage and rushing the passer, can absolutely fly. A sure tackler. Anthony Hill Jr. is probably my favorite player on Texas. A huge fan of him after watching all of that film. So Texas ends up with the win in this one. Arch Manning, haven't talked a whole lot about his arm talent and ability to throw the football. Of course, it's going to come down to that. We spoke about all of the new rotating players on defense, on that defensive side of the football. Sonny Styles is back. He's one of those freaks. Bruce Feldman's freak list. He was at like number 8 or 9 on there. 6'4", 235 pounds. The safety turned linebacker, likely going to be in the running to be a all Big Ten, maybe even All-American player this year. He's phenomenal. He's going to be exactly the type of guy that will have responsibilities to take away Arch's legs. How does Arch navigate not throwing the ball to Sonny Styles? He's number 0, right? The block 0. He was awarded that, a very prestigious number within the Ohio State. Of course, Cody Simon, Rose Bowl defensive MVP, national championship MVP. He donned the 0 jersey, so it means something for Sonny Styles. But Arch Manning, his ability to throw the football, believe that he can get the job done and beat the Buckeyes. No shame in losing a game like this to start the season in the new era of the college football playoff, for his 12 teams, and we might be seeing as many as 16 with new Big Ten proposals, maybe something like 20. In all likelihood, we're settling around 12 or 16 teams in the playoff. You can lose a game like this and still be perfectly fine in getting to the playoff. It's non-conference, of course. can still obviously compete and win the Big Ten championship. So thank you so much for watching. College football is back. We are so ready to get this game started. This might be the best game of the college football season. We get it week one, one of the biggest, and in all likelihood, these teams could be seeing each other late in the college football playoff, again in a rematch in the semifinal or the national championship. So please make sure to subscribe for more content in the future, and I will see you next time.
Best player in college football.
That Georgia and Ohio State game, New Year's Eve, is going to be a classic.
Josh Blunder, hi everybody, I'm Josh Blunder.
To the 40, 35, 30, Espinosa.